Magic Conch Shell? Was this a good episode?
I don't think so.
Well, screw you! Good morning, world, and all who inhabit. My name's Noah. Welcome to my first impressions of the new SpongeBob episode, The Tidal Zone. The Tidal Zone is finally here, folks. It's the moment you've all been waiting for, and it's the greatest event in the entire SpongeBob history because it's combining all of these different shows. The Patrick Star Show, the Camp Coral, SpongeBob SquarePants himself, all these shows that you've come to know and love are coming together, and it's really exciting. I'm so excited to talk about this episode because it's really interesting. It's an hour-long special. You know, you don't get those often. It's a compilation of episodes. It's like the Legends of Bikini Bottom. You know, you don't get that stuff that often. I'm really excited to talk about this kind of thing because I love SpongeBob and I love this universe that they built and put together. It's like the Marvel universe of SpongeBob, and I just think that's like really cool and interesting. So let's just get into it with the first part of the special, the Patrick Show episode that they included. They've actually included episodes of the Patrick Star Show and Camp Coral that were just sort of regular episodes, but they tied it into the Tidal Zone in very interesting ways. So for the Patrick Star episode, Shrinking Stars, all of the cast of characters actually shrunk down because of there's like these other characters that appear in other episodes of the show, and they appeared and they shrunk them. And it was really interesting seeing like these other characters that you don't see combined together, and they combined together and they shrunk the characters, and that was really interesting. I think they really pulled off in an interesting way how they shrunk down and had little tiny adventures as a family, and met other little tiny families too, and had fun little wacky misadventures in the same sort of vein. It reminds me of my family values and the adventures that I have as a family. It's very interesting, and I would like to see more of this from the Patrick Show. I think having the grandpa as the only character that's like still big and trying to fight them, I think that was a really good situation, and I hope they do more situations like that in the future of the Patrick Star Show. There were some really good gags and some really good scenery, especially the out her face. Clever. And Egypt? I love Egypt! That was such a great moment in the episode. And they also brought back the SpongeBob mold from the stock photo of SpongeBob! That was so interesting and clever! I laughed so hard seeing that, and they played the theme song. It was such a really cool reference. I loved it so much. And the fact that they shrinked even further is even crazier. And seeing how many fun adventures they had going further into that is so interesting. And to top it all off, I thought the way that they tie it back into the Tidal Zone aspect with the French narrator spying on Sandy, I think was it's the fun and suspenseful way to tie it back into the Tidal Zone event and really make it feel like a whole put together product, and really gets you excited for the future of the Tidal Zone special, which we're going to get into right now with the first part of the SpongeBob themed episodes of the Tidal Zone. Welcome to Binary Bottom, in which SpongeBob and all his friends are, well, except for one of them. I'm not going to spoil it just yet. But SpongeBob and all his friends they're robots, and they all go beep boop, and they walk around and they roll around and they electrocute themselves to wake up. It's really interesting to see the ways that they embedded robot technology into what is normally an underwater world where you wouldn't expect this kind of thing. It's very clever in the ways that they implement these things in such fascinating, futuristic sci-fi ways. It's honestly kind of revolutionary for this kind of style of a show. So this episode follows a simple yet intriguing premise. What if SpongeBob and Bikini Bottom was robots? And I think they pulled off some really clever gags with this. Really, they applied robot things to everything, like Gary's swirl charging up like a little like a charging line thing. You know what I'm talking about, of course. And the Krabby battery, that is actually so clever. They feed batteries to people. It's actually so clever for building the lore and bringing it all together like that. It all leads to a good situation showing Squidward and Gary touring us basically around this robot town. And as they're going on these misadventures, you find Plankton, and he's like really slow and winding up, and Karen was an actual fish! It's like really interesting the way to turn it around. It's so interesting. I'm so glad that they pulled it off like that. In any other episode, I feel like they would have just had Karen still be a computer, and it's all just the same. But no, they made Karen into a fish, and it was so cool. And I'm so excited for this episode. It's radical. They brought that back. It was so clever. It was just a little small background thing, but it was so interesting seeing that come back in a very interesting way that you wouldn't expect. And clever. I just love SpongeBob so much right now. And of course, the grandpa from the Patrick Show appears randomly through a door. It's leading to like an interesting point of the plot. It's like an overarching story for SpongeBob. It's kind of rare to see that kind of thing, and I'm really interested to see. Like, I was really interested while watching to see like where that would go in the special. Well, one problem I have with the episode is Robot Sandy. Well, I mean, I guess the kids didn't really need to sleep tonight. And also, one other thing, everything else is still robotic and everything like that, but the ground is still sand. I'm kind of cringing a little bit, but I'll let it slide for now. Again, this is a very great episode, but it's just like, it's very interesting when you have a robot concept with a concept like this. Why were the robots underwater at the end? They came out of the water. It was really, it's a little bit strange, but I respect what they were going for, and the French narrator, like you said, he said it was a cartoon. It's a cartoon, so it doesn't really matter. I think that makes a lot of sense. You can do a lot of things in a cartoon. SpongeBob is a very malleable show, and I think it's very interesting to see the ways that it develops its characters, even if it doesn't really go for the sort of logistical way of doing things. I mean, Karen was already a robot in Bikini Bottom, so I guess it makes sense. I understand it. But overall, it was a great one, and it leads me into this next episode. Speaking of Karen, the new Camp Coral episode, Switch Glitch, in which Karen and Patrick switch bodies, and it's actually really interesting. I loved Camp Coral so much watching it. I've seen every single episode, and I was really excited to see a Camp Coral outing that I hadn't really seen before. Patrick and Karen is a really interesting dynamic, and I was really interested in seeing how it developed. Also, having a body swap episode is new territory for the show, so I was very interested in seeing how they would accomplish this. It was really interesting seeing their take, especially showing a computer being real for the first time. The animation is very wobbly and wacky in this episode, and it's really interesting seeing all the wacky antics they get up to. It was really cool to see. There were some good gags, and seeing Karen in this new situation and them analyzing her, it was really interesting to see. I like the part where they start kicking Patrick's head. It was really funny. And also, having the voice actors do impressions of each other instead of swapping voice actors was a really neat touch, I think. And the Grandpad appearance in this one was kind of random, but I think I like it for that reason. And I'm really glad that Patrick learned his lesson so that the episode could be resolved. And honestly, Patrick not having ice cream, that kind of made me emotional. I almost shed a tear, honestly. And the ending where everyone was Patrick was just a hilarious way to end the episode. I'm so happy they ended it like that. And now for the last segment, the next SpongeBob themed segment, starting with You're Going to Pay. Phone. Clever. Now this next episode is a little bit of a simpler one, but I do like the way they executed it. Mr. Krabs giving everything away is really interesting, and it's really cool seeing his psyche and his understanding of the situation when it happens. And also, I noticed that Plankton was kind of doing the finger wag from Sonic the Hedgehog, and I think that was really iconic of him to do. And at the end, Mr. Krabs actually loses. The hero of the story, he loses. And I think that was a really interesting way of portraying his character. And also having the demon in there, it kind of implies the idea of an underworld in Bikini Bottom. And I'd like them to maybe explore that in the future, because I think having the underworld, it would be a great addition to Bikini Bottom's lore. And now, the big event. This is the most important part of the story. We're going to get a conclusion to Grandpat's big arc throughout the story. We're going to see where he's going, how he got into the tidal zone, and how he gets out of it. And so it was really interesting. The way that he was going through this vortex, and it was really, really great visuals, great scenery throughout it. He redid the theme song, and it was so clever. I was so happy when they had him sing the Grandpa part. I think that was so clever. The way they did the teeth, that was so cool. It was so cool seeing all the worlds they go to, and they went to Dead-Eye Gulch. They had the Krusty Cantina in the background. I saw it, like from Past to the West. It was a really cool reference to the background. I'm so glad they brought that back. They didn't even need to, but they did, and it was so good for them. The baby Grandpa was also such a funny choice. There was a plethora of gags in this one. And even though it ended kind of strangely, like all the Patrick characters are all flies, I still think it was a really interesting way to end this story. Now, I really like this special. It went in so many directions. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you. Bye! What the freak even was that? What did I even just see?